Waxen knelt in the garden grass, wallowing as his thoughts once again festered, and sorrow flooded his mind. Why does this have to happen to me? He thought to himself. After a time of self-pity, Waxen pushed his arms against the ground, grunting. He looked out in the distance. The sun peaked just over the mountains, and it was getting close to sunset. How long was he out here for? He slowly rose from the grass and aggressively wiped the dry tears from his face. With his mind a little clearer, he rushed towards the stairs back into the castle. Waxen was in the middle of the arduous journey up the staircase when his servant came barreling down the steps, stopping in his tracks. The servant paused to catch his breath. Duke Waxen, we received a letter from Governor Machi, he huffed. Waxen climbed the steps a little more, meeting the male servant. Ah, something good could come out of this agony, he stated. With the letter in his hand, he reached into his pocket to grab his small knife. He ripped the envelope open and dipped his fingers in to extract the message. Waxen began reading the letter out loud. Dear Duke Waxen, it is good to hear from you. My town's jurisdiction has also been afflicted by the same illness that you mentioned. Waxen's voice slowed and became raspy. He swallowed. This is a difficult time for the people of Jagran, and as much as this pains me to say, I cannot give you the aid that you desire. Salvation is needed in my area before any other course of action is taken. May your ill wife and subjects pull through. Waxen finished the last line. His hands trembled and a sweat began to dampen the parchment. The male servant chimed in. Was the request fulfilled, my lord? Waxen looked over to the male servant and ground his teeth. Denied, he said in a low voice. Waxen ripped the letter in half and ran to the infirmary. Waxen approached the main lobby of the medical ward hospital where 2 castle guards were guarding the door. One of the men excitedly shouted, Duke Waxen, it is our pleasure to be blessed with your presence. Waxen felt internal rage begin to rise towards the surface. His eyes were bloodshot and vessels bulged. He barged through the men, hissing, Out of my way! Wild spit flew from his mouth as he marched his way through the hospital. With the sight of Duke Waxen, all the nurses and doctors who were discussing serious matters hushed. The room set their eyes on their Duke, waiting for him to speak. Where are Veronica and Reichland? I need to accompany them. For a few seconds, there was a pause, and no one wanted to speak. Finally, one of the head physicians cleared his throat and uttered, Yes, sir, right this way. While the doctor escorted Waxen to the private rooms, all the people in the main lobby and hallways shimmied their bodies to the walls and looked down as Waxen passed by them with white-knuckled fists. When the two reached the room, a large cloth covered the doorway. The doctor put his hand on Waxen's shoulder, stopping him. She isn't doing so well, Duke Waxen. The stress from earlier appeared to have spiked the sickness. When he removed his hand from Waxen's shoulder, he solemnly whispered, She will most likely pass by nightfall. Waxen paced his way towards the wall, leaning his arm on it and digging his head into his elbow. Is there absolutely nothing we can do? He replied. The head physician moistened his lips. He walked over to a wooden cupboard filled with herbs and liquids. He reached above his head and pulled down a large container filled with purple flower petals. Since we have been treating Veronica and other patients who have this same sickness, we managed to get our hands on this medicine from a village in the region of Honko-Rorus. The merchants have said that this flower can heal any detrimental illness. Waxen interrupted. Are these merchants to be trusted with such an outlandish claim? The physician opened the jar and grabbed a petal. He opened the curtain and laid his eyes on Veronica. A risk worth taking for her and for Reichland. Waxen interrupted. What? Reichland? Does he have the same symptoms too? The physician turned around. I'm afraid so, and unlike your wife, he has been fighting this for days. She is older and bigger than Reichland. A child's health is uncertain with this novel sickness. Waxen then stood straight up and coldly asked the physician, When will my boy die? The physician twiddled with the petals. Without this flower petal, he will die in a matter of hours. With a high dosage, it may be a cure. However, as established earlier, this is a gamble for the both of them. It is your choice to make, sire. Waxen sighed. Whatever you think is best. The physician nodded and gave the flower pills to a nurse for Reiklin, and then he entered Veronica's room with some others. Waxon turned around and sat on a nearby bench. He closed his eyes and folded his knuckles inwards, lurching his back forward. During that time of the procedure, Waxon waited and his mind began to race. The guilt from this morning, it creeped and seeped into his mind. Dark thoughts of regret, anger, and devastation flustered. He began to squeeze harder with his hands and rock back and forth on the bench. Suddenly, a hellish scream shuddered the hairs on Waxon's neck. Waxon accelerated from the bench and barged through the curtain. On the bed, Veronica was having a negative reaction, spazzing on the bed. Her neck was purple and swollen to the size of a grapefruit. Her eyes were blacker than the abyss of the ocean, her nose running with a grotesque yellowish-green mucus. "What's happening to her?" Waxon yelled as he rushed to her side. One of the nurses pulled him back, shouting, "Duke Waxon, now is not the time to be intruding, please!" He shoved the woman to the ground. He grasped Veronica's hand, pressing it and then releasing it to see if blood was flowing to her hands and wrists. "You promised me, damn it! Find it, Veronica!" Waxon stuttered to finish this last sentence. I can't lose you during this time." The guards rushed into the room, grabbed Waxon, and hauled him out of the vicinity. Waxon started to swing and lash at the men. "Let me go! She needs me!" As the guards tried to drag him out, Waxon plummeted his weight to the ground. With a slight opening, he crawled his way back to the room. "Duke Waxon, stop! The medical professionals need to do their job!" With those words, Waxon planted his face on the ground, laying on the floor and weeping loudly. Once the commotion came to an end, the guards eased the restraint on Waxon. The sound of shoes grew louder as they approached him. With Waxon's eyes clouded, he looked up to see the head doctor. "You might want to go see Reiklin before it's too late." "I am so sorry, my lord." Waxon yet again rose off the ground, rubbing his teary eyes. He stared at the physician, scorning his eyebrows and breathing heavily. Just as the physician was turning around to treat other patients, Waxon cracked his fingers and forged them into fists. His arms began to shake with a devilish sound. Waxon spoke. "Execute this murderer." Arresting the man without hesitation, the guards spouted the mantra, "By your decree, Duke Divine." The physician's face flushed with fear. "What? You can't detain me like this, you sick bastard!" The guards pulled him away from Waxon, who then scolded at the physician. "What was sick was Veronica, and your incompetence killed her. Ask yourself, doctor, who did you heal?" As the doctor kicked and yelled, fearing his demise, Waxon approached a nurse nearby. "I must see Veronica now." "As you wish, my lord," said the nurse. Once they entered the room, coldness and heaviness weighed on them. Waxon approached Veronica's bedside. Her face had swelled to the point of no resemblance of the Veronica he knew. Waxon kneeled on both knees and placed his head on her bedside. "I wish I could apologize. I wish I could have comforted you. I wish I hadn't let you suffer." Waxon touched her hand, and a freezing sensation stung his fingers. "Action will be taken, my love. I promise you." As he retracted his hands from his wife, he stood up and walked over to the nurse. "I must see Reiklin before it is too late." The nurse nodded, and the two headed a few rooms down to Reiklin's private room. Reiklin laid in bed, and Waxon could see the mucus running down from his nose. "Damn it," Waxon said under his breath. "Daddy?" A soft voice spoke. Yes, Daddy is here to check up on you." As Waxon slowly kneeled on Reiklin's bedside, he could see Reiklin's eyes beginning to fade. "Don't fall asleep on me yet. I want to cherish these important moments with you." When Waxon caressed Reiklin's hair, Reiklin hurled his back forward and released the gruesome cough, spewing the green and yellow mucus. Waxon startled backwards to avoid the bacteria. Reiklin turned his head, revealing his baggy dark eyes that began to manifest on him. "Is Mommy alright? I heard some awful noises." Waxon cleared his throat. "Yes, Mother is sleeping now. She is better." Reiklin looked down and reached into his pocket to grab a golden locket. He opened it, smiled, and extended his arm towards Waxon. Waxon reached over to grab the locket, opened the golden encrusted metal, and laid his eyes upon it. The inside contained two tiny self-portraits. Reichland was on the right, wearing his golden royal outfit with a gleeful smile, while on the left was Veronica, wearing a long black dress, cupping her hands with a smug smile. Did you personally make this, Reichland? Yep, he replied. What a beautiful work of art! I will treasure this forever, said Waxen. He then closed the locket and placed it on his neck. Daddy, when can we all go home? Reichland asked. Waxen's face crinkled, and he released a heavy sigh. We will all be home at different times. Waxen's voice began to break. Mother is waiting for you at home. In fact, in paradise. And you'll soon be there as well. Puzzled by what Waxen said, Reichland released a half-hearted smile. Okay, Daddy, whatever you say. I can't wait till we're all home once more. Waxen kissed Reichland's head. He turned around, sobbing his way out of the medical room, walking his way out of the facility. The nurse stopped him. You will get a note in a day or two on Reichland's status. Or passing, Waxen said, cutting her off. Yes, my lord. While Waxen left the hospital towards his castle, he stared above into the clouds. They began to form the dark storms that quenched the light of the sun. Within a few seconds, rain plummeted down, and the crackling of lightning ignited the dreary sky.